What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Wesportin podcast. And today, I'm here with Dylan. We're going through our top five in every, skill position on offense, minus the tight end and offensive line. We're going through quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and basically, we're just going to give our top five. We'll say where their best fits will be and whatnot. You guys can agree and disagree with us. All right, sounds good. So, what position should we start out with first? Quarterback?
Yeah, go QB.
Yeah, all right. So, you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
Are we doing like one, then one, or 1 through 5?
We're gonna go 5 through 1. So we're gonna go
5 through 1. All right, I'll go first.
All right.
My 5's a tie between 2. I have Howell and Pickett here. I'm super low on Pickett. Anyone that knows me, Nico, you knew Pickett was like 4 or 5. I'll go through it real quick. Howell is an interesting guy because he has a really high floor. He has a floor of about probably a top 20. I think he'll become a decent quarterback. He'll start eventually. He has a high floor, but as everyone knows, high floor, but he does have a lower ceiling, which kind of hurts him. If he had the ceiling of the guys ahead of him, then you could have him higher because really he's done nothing wrong. It's just his ceiling's kind of short. Really reminds me of the most comparable comp ever. He reminds you of a Baker without attitude issues. And then Pickett. Pickett does have a higher ceiling, but in my opinion, a lower floor. And how I know a lot of people have Pickett like 1. I do not. But I think hand size is so important. Hand size is, anyone who knows anything about football, quarterback's hand size is probably his most important trait. Okay, It's so important. And reports came out after the Senior Bowl that when it started to rain with a college football, which is smaller than NFL football, he couldn't grip it that well. So he could have a very bad ability to control the football in the NFL. Not only that it's bigger, but if he doesn't play in a team that has a dome, if he goes to Pittsburgh with a bigger football, he is in some trouble because hand size, you can't just fix that. He just wear 2 gloves. I think his arm's a little overrated. People think his arm's good. It's not really. It's very mid in my opinion. It'll be a decent arm in the NFL, but it's not
good enough. It's good enough for the NFL.
It's good enough, but it's not great.
Good. Yeah, basically. Okay. So is that your 4 and 5 then?
No, that's my 5. They're tied.
Okay. So my 5 for me is Desmond Ridder. Personally, it's just off of, what I guess I look at a quarterback. Desmond Ridder to me, he's a decent quarterback in my opinion. I will say he's pretty decent on the legs. He does have a couple of rushing touchdowns this season with in Cincinnati. I will say it's just when I watch Desmond Ridder, I see a guy that's very conservative and I see kind of like a check down kind of guy. I think that's what he will be in the NFL, is more of a conservative guy. I mean, he only threw 30 touchdowns and 8 interceptions compared to these other guys on this list. There's, they're not as conservative as he is, knowing that he was on an offense in Cincinnati where it was pretty much kind of conservative. I see his best fits, honestly, being the season, probably the Lions or honestly, even Tennessee. I see either Lions or Tennessee drafting him. Lions would be more of like the 32nd pick, beginning of the 2nd round type guy. Just if they want to look in a new direction, if they can get Desmond Ridder like the second round, early 2nd round, and he can escape that 1st round, that'd be really good for the Lions. And they would already have almost an A+ draft, even because they have the 2 first picks in the 1st round and they continue and they have that 1st pick in the 2nd round. But like I said, personally, Desmond Ridder plays a little conservative. I mean, not to blame him though. He wasn't in more of a conservative offense, so he wasn't able to really explode the way he wanted to, but I will give him that. But I don't know how he'll transition to the NFL. So he's my 5th guy on this board.
All right. Is it mine now?
I can start off with 4 and then you can go to your 4 and we'll just kind of flip flop.
No, I'll just do my 4. We'll just go in this order.
All right. Who do you got at number 4?
So my 4 is Carson Strong. Now he does, obviously, if you've watched Carson Strong, his pros are his arm and accuracy. He has probably the 2nd best arm, just pure who can throw it the farthest, but accuracy wise, he's one of the best. Now his cons are a little more important. Obviously he's tall, he's big, he has a good arm. He's not mobile at all, and he does have injury concerns. So we're going to not mobile first. A team that would, if he gets to a team that wants to build around him and likes him, and he stays healthy, he could be the best quarterback in this draft, easily, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
But he needs an O-line, first off. He cannot escape the pocket well at all. And injury concerns is big. He has an issue with his cartilage in his knee and his planting knee to throw, which is a big deal. He got a surgery on it, which has like a 99% success rate. That's not for football players, it's just people in general. So this could, it's not saying that it's going to hinder him, but it could be an issue. He played really good in 2021, but after that surgery or after he got injured with that knee, his play did fall off. So it could be an issue. He's my 4, but he could pretty much be anywhere between 2 and 5 in my opinion.
Yeah. So my number 4 is Malik Willis. Coming in at maybe like a little bit of a shocker, but Malik Willis is my number 4, and it's just because me watching his highlights, I just saw, and I think Dylan, you can agree with me, it's just a lot of inconsistency and not a lot of quarterback discipline. He believes that he has the fastest legs in the world, and he can roll out of any pocket, and he can manage to escape it. Now, can he escape it all the time? No. We saw a game of me and Dylan, because I'm saying me and Dylan a lot because we sat there and we watched a lot of these guys. And it's he literally wasn't making a read. He would just run. And if that first read's not there, he just runs. And I get that, but as a quarterback, you need to be disciplined. You need to know that if there's nothing there and if you can't run, you need to throw it out. But I will say he is one of the more, he's probably the best rushing quarterback, that's came out since probably Lamar, right? Or Kyler. I mean, he's pretty good. He had 878 yards in his final season. He had 13 rushing TDs. His touchdown to interception ratio is 27-12. The only problem was that he only threw for 2,800 yards. But again, he plays in Liberty. He doesn't have a lot of great star receivers. It's basically just him there and a bunch of nobodies. And I mean, it's not like Malik Willis is bad, but one team I could really see him fit around is the Steelers. I think that's the one team that has been connected to him, and he's been connected to them. And I've seen a lot of rumors that Malik Willis in Pittsburgh may happen. It wouldn't be surprising if he did win to Pittsburgh. I think it would really be a change from how Ben Roethlisberger was more of a pocket passer to more than of a scrambling quarterback, which I think everyone in the AFC North almost has a scrambling or a mobile-ish quarterback, unlike, Pittsburgh did. So yeah, Malik's number 4.
All right, my 3 is Desmond Ridder out of Cincinnati. His pros are he has a good arm and good legs. He doesn't have a Malik arm or a strong arm or a Carson Strong. I mean, he doesn't have that arm, and he doesn't have the best legs in the draft either. But he is good at both. He has a better arm than Pickett, in my opinion. And he's more mobile than Pickett. Here's the issue. Number 1, Titans fit is perfect, and I'll tell you what. He, in my opinion, is without a doubt the best play action quarterback in this draft. Almost all of his highlights are off of boot passes. He rolls out, makes his reads down the field, everything's kind of in front of him, or he can scramble. He has good legs. He's not immobile at all. Now, I have seen actually comparisons from him to Ryan Tannehill. Anyway, not a point. I don't really see him playing too super conservative. I think it's just that offense is a pretty conservative offense.
Yeah, that's what I mean to say. I feel like if he was in a better offense, we'd see more of a Desmond Ridder, and I feel like his stock would go a little higher if he wasn't on Cincinnati in a team like Bama or Ohio State.
Yeah, here's the issue with Desmond Ridder is he is so inconsistent. He is a senior at Cincinnati. He's been playing for 4 years, and he's always been inconsistent. You'll see a drive. And I watched this multiple times. You'd see a drive, Desmond Ridder. He starts dicing people up for this one drive, just kills people the whole drive, hits deep posts, hits open checkdowns, hits everything. He's a good guy at reading progressions. He's a senior. Let's not forget this.
Mm-hmm.
But then the next drive, deep post wide open, overthrows it, or deep post wide open, underthrows it, or sails it. He's just so inconsistent on stuff he did a drive ago, which can be ironed out. It can happen.
Of course.
But with that inconsistency, it hurts him in his draft stock. Because you'll watch a drive and be like, oh, how is this not the best quarterback in the draft? And then the next drive, he'll overthrow an easy touchdown. And you're like, oh, okay. There you go.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, basically kind of almost said the same thing. You just kind of went into a little bit more depth than I did. But number 3 now for me is Carson Strong. Now, obviously, Dylan mentioned a lot of the minuses, but also mentioned this one positive thing is that if he's put around a good offense and more, let's say an O-line, I mean, remember, he does play in Nevada where there's not a lot of prospects that you're going to, just, milk in like anything. He to me, I mean, like, I think, Dylan said he could be 2 or 5 in this draft. He could easily be the second best quarterback or the first best. It doesn't matter. I think his fit, honest to God, is the Saints. Him and the Saints are I'm calling for it. I mean, he has a beautiful offensive line with Teron Armstead and
Teron's leaving.
Oh yeah, that's right. Well, Eric McCoy and you know what? Can't really think of it, but the Saints O-line is not that bad.
Ryan Ramczyk,
Yeah, you guys get the point. I think he's a great quarterback. I mean, 36 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Now, again, in the NFL draft, if you had a leg injury, they will literally look at that and that could literally ruin your entire draft stock no matter what. Do I think Carson Strong will get picked in the first round? Yes and no. I could see it happen. I could see him going to the Saints, but I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't. But I think the Saints is his best fit. The only thing is, though, is out of the top 5 quarterbacks that I have listed in front of me right now, he has the lowest QBR in the top 5 for my quarterbacks. His QBR was a
QBR in college is a
yeah,
bullshit stat.
it's they're always throwing the ball in high school.
In the NFL, it's cool, but he's also in an air raid offense. I don't take into account QBR in college.
Mhm.
And NFL, you can take it.
I'm just saying for my top 5, his QBR is the lowest out of everyone's. Now, number 2. Yeah.
All right. Number 2 for me is Malik Willis. Everyone knows why Malik's a high tighter prospect, right? He has probably the best arm in the draft. Just again, not accuracy. Who can throw the ball the furthest? He has also the best legs in the draft.
Mhm.
Now, that's his pros. That's probably his whole pros right there. Cons, shows flashes of superstar potential, but could not reach that, very likely could not reach that because of bad decision making and poor accuracy very often.
Mhm.
He's again kind of like a Desmond Ridder in a way that he'll hit a great throw and then overthrow it. I see a lot of people compare him to Lamar or Allen because Allen was different. Allen, now we'll see with Malik Willis' pro day / combine, but when Allen was coming in the draft, to go watch the pro day, the big oohs and ah where he's big, he's physical, and he can throw the ball really far. He's mobile, yes, but even when he came into the league, bad decision making, poor accuracy, okay. But Allen sat for half a year, should have sat for longer, but Tyrod Taylor got hurt, I think. I think that's what it is. No, it was not Tyrod Taylor, somebody else.
It was EJ Manuel.
Yeah. So could Malik be good? Yes. But it's so rare to get one of these QBs with that type of potential that pans out.
Yeah.
I know we've seen a lot recently with Lamar and Allen and Mahomes, these slinger quarterbacks with good arms and legs. Yes. But there's also just as many who fail. So I wouldn't think he's a guaranteed guy. Go to the right system with a team who wants to build around him, then sure. But with the bad accuracy and very poor decision making, it's going to be interesting to see where Malik and how he plays.
Right. Number 2 for me, like I said, I can't give a full analysis on this guy, but for me, he was my number 2. It's Matt Corral. I think Matt Corral is, I think he's the second best quarterback in this draft at the end of the day. Like kind of like everyone in this draft, unlike Carson Strong, Corral has the legs to move. And he's been, he's a good quarterback. Like I said, I can't really give a full analysis. I know that his arm talent is pretty decent. I know that, he's a very mobile guy. He kind of reminds me of a raw talented, I can't think of his name. He kind of reminds me a little of Zach Wilson in a way with legs. That's kind of what I get out of him, is a decent arm and can run around. But that's who I think of when I think of Matt Corral. I think Matt Corral's best fits probably would be either the Commanders, the Broncos, or the Saints. I'm not saying I want Corral. I'm just saying the best fits in his draft because he's going to be the second quarterback taken off. I mean, he'll be the second quarterback. Pickett will be the first. I already know that.
Maybe.
I mean,
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to say. We have to see the pro days, but yeah. So that's just me. Like I said, I don't have a full analysis on Corral, but yeah. Who's your number 1?
All right. My 1 is Matt Corral. I think that was obvious. Process of elimination. Pros. He's very good at improvising. If you watch Matt Corral, I watched him actually right before this. A very good improviser. He's, he knows situational football, which is so important, with I think Malik kind of doesn't. That's the issue with Malik as well. You see a 3rd and 6, he has an open lane, but he just chucks it, or it's 3rd and 10, and he tries to take off for a 5-yard scramble instead of trying to look downfield. But I feel like Matt Corral is really good situationally wise. He does have good short to medium accuracy. I feel like he's actually really accurate on that. But his cons are his deep ball is very iffy sometimes. He overshoots a lot of deep balls. I watched him. Who's it against? Maybe against. I don't remember who it was. But so his deep ball is not great, and at times he stares at one read way too long. You'll see this a lot. Ole Miss ran a lot of RPOs where you have the little quick slant, maybe a rub route on the side or a flat route with your other receiver, and then a slant with your number 1 receiver, and it's just an inside zone RPO. And he faked the handoff, and he just stared on that slant. And the slant wasn't open, he'd still throw. And he just threw. Now, he has a good zip on his balls. I will say that. He has a zip on those quick passes, which is very nice. But I feel like the reason he's number 1 for me is just because I feel like he actually has one of the safest floors. And he reminds me a lot of a Deshaun Watson coming out of Clemson. That's who he reminds me of.
Russell Wilson a little too.
No, not Wilson. Because Wilson was not a very good prospect coming out of college.
Yeah.
He's like a 3rd round pick. But Matt Corral reminds me a lot of Watson. He has the arm. He has what he needs. Again, all these guys are kind of in that situation where if they land in a situation, they could be great. Right?
It's kind of like what Mac Jones was this year, since Mac Jones ended up in the best situation.
Mac Jones was crap anyway. But that's the more, I think, a better conversation is Josh Allen in Buffalo. They built around him. They gave him an offense. They gave him weapons. Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City. They built around him. He got a perfect situation. Or who else? Lamar in Baltimore. They built around him. They made an offense around Lamar. All these teams are making offenses around these guys. And if you build an offense around any of these top 4, I think they could all be really good. I don't think Howell has potential to be a top 5 quarterback. I don't think Pickett has the potential to be a top 5 quarterback. But could Carson Strong be the best pocket passer in the league if he's in this right situation? Sure. Could Desmond Ridder be a very good player in a team that runs a scheme like
the Rams?
San Fran? So say Desmond Ridder goes to Miami with San Fran's offensive coordinator. That could be interesting. Yeah. Could Malik be good in a team who builds around him like Lamar or Buffalo? Sure. All these guys, top 4, build around him. They could all be very good quarterbacks.
Right. So for my number 1 for me, like Dylan said, process of elimination. Mine is, for me, it's Kenny Pickett. Obviously, Dylan doesn't agree with me, but obviously this is a quarterback draft class where I don't really think there's any strong-headed guy that's number 1. Kenny Pickett, speaks for itself. I mean, for me, his pros are his ball placement, from him passing to the receiver is very meh, but it's good enough. His arm talent, it's there and it's good enough. Is it something that can be worked on in the NFL? Yes, I can see his arm being good. I can see it, progressing. Now his cons, he said small hands. That does play a big role. If he goes to a team where it rains, snows, he's screwed if that's the case, because then he's going to fumble the ball. He's going to be like a poor man's Jimmy G, and he'll be out of the league in no time.
My comp is a similar Daniel Jones with the fumbling issues. Yeah. But I forgot to say this real quick. If he goes to a team like Atlanta or Saints who play in a dome very often, then maybe he could succeed.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. And another con too, and that one thing I think Dylan could agree on, is he's not very disciplined when he's in the pocket. When he's sitting there and he feels like he needs to roll out or whatnot. Say for instance, the pocket's collapsing. He doesn't have good pocket awareness. He will not roll out. He'll not look at that. Most times, if he's on the goal line situation where he's backed against the goal line, he will always look at the left route guy, the running back that goes out to the left, and immediately will throw it to him no matter who is open or whatnot, because he doesn't make good reads. That's another thing too. He needs to make better reads. His reads will not, he looks at one read the entire way through, just like Corral does. Him and Corral have the same kind of issue. Like I said, if it's on the goal line, he's going to look at the running back and that will immediately get read in the NFL. Or if it's a slant or if it's a deep route, he has his favorite targets, and he does not expand his targets like guys like Dak Prescott, who's in a loaded offense full of many different kinds of guys in that offense, and he could throw it to whoever he wants. He doesn't share it, basically, is what I'm trying to say. It's either the running back or his favorite receiver that day. It's nobody else. So that's my thing on Kenny Pickett. So
want to go wide receiver next?
Sure. We'll save running backs for last.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Wide receivers. I'll go first. We'll start up at number 5. Number 5 for me in my top 5, I have Chris Olave. I do have him at 5. But just hold on for a second. To me, I have Chris Olave at 5. I think he's a phenomenal wide receiver to me personally. I think he'll either go in the first round or early in the second round. A team I could see him going to, and it's only the reason why he's my number 5. I think he'll be 5th off the draft board just because these other guys and going into these different situations and whatnot. I think Chris Olave is honestly the best fit for either the Raiders or the Chiefs. I think Chris Olave going to Kansas City would be the best thing for Patrick Mahomes. And if Chris Olave gets drafted to the Saints, the Chiefs, I think that'd be in his best interest and situation. I do think Chris Olave is a good quarterback. He's a good wide receiver, but in this draft, I personally do not see him being picked over these other guys I have ahead of me. And for the situations and the schemes and the fits and all that, I just saw Chris Olave being the 5th. It's not like I think he's the 5th best. I just think he'll be taken off the board 5th. I think there'll be 5 wide receivers that get taken out in the first round.
All right. My 5 is Jahan Dotson. Out of where did he go? Purdue?
Penn State.
Penn State, not Purdue.
That's
My bad. I was thinking of
David Bell went to Purdue.
I was thinking of Rondo more. That's why, because he reminds me a lot of Rondo. Anyway, so the reason Jahan Dotson is really up here is because everyone wants a Tyreek Hill. Everyone wants that burner. Now Dotson at 5'11" has great speed. He is a pretty good route runner. Actually, he's a very good route runner. But all these fast little guys, like look at Rondale Moore last year, was considered a top 5 guy by a lot of people in the class. And sure, you could say he wasn't used properly, sure. But he's just these shorter speed guys are just so risky to take because you know what you're getting out of them. You know, all you're going to be able to do is send them deep. There aren't like they're good players.
They're good, but they're not like pure wide receivers.
Yeah, they're more of kind of gadget speed guys, and he could be good. He is taller, 5'11" for his speed's good. He's not 5'9", but he has great speed. But obviously his size limits him. If he was like 6'2" and had his speed, he'd be like the best wide receiver in the class. But go ahead.
Yeah. Now for my number 4, I have Jamenson Williams. Now here's the thing.
I kind of forgot about him.
Yeah, he has the ACL injury. That's why I'm assuming you said that. He has not really been.
No, I forgot him on the top 5.
Oh, okay. Jamenson Williams to me, he's number 4. Now, obviously, Jamenson Williams, I mean, let me just read you these stats. 79 receptions, 1,500 yards, and 15 TDs in the last, I believe, full season he played. I mean, that's phenomenal. I think, honestly, his best fit, I mean, this kid is averaging almost 20 yards per catch. He's averaged, I mean, that's impressive. He would be my number 1 if he wasn't hurt. I think we could all agree he'd be the number 1. Maybe Garret Wilson and him would be tied. You don't think him and Wilson would be tied?
Wilson's not my 1 anyway.
Who's your 1?
Who do you think? He's the best receiver in the class. Like, widely considered the best receiver in the class.
Who? Drake
1? Wait till 1.
Okay. But yeah, to me, I can see Jamenson Williams, after watching some film on him, I could see him really go to the Patriots. I think I think Mac Jones and him, they never played, obviously, but they do have the Bama love, the Roll Tide. I could really see Jamenson Williams in this top 4. And yeah, he's injured, but I feel like he's one of those players. He's just going to come back and just stun the league.
All right. So my 4, again, I forgot about I completely forgot about Jamenson Williams to make this list. So Jamenson would actually be my 5. I still think he's not better than the top 4 guys. 4 is Olave. I think he's a very fluid route runner, one of the best route runners in the class, if not the best, probably the best. And he may not have the absolute skyrocket ceiling like the guys ahead of him, but I feel like his floor is probably the safest. Yeah, or one of the safest. If he's not a great wide receiver, I think he could be a very good wide receiver 2 for most teams. So a second round pick on a very up end wide receiver 2 is still a good pick because you need multiple wide receivers now. Now, will he be a wide receiver 2? I don't know. But I feel like with Olave, the appeal to him is he's a good route runner. He's not small, and he makes contested catches, and he could be a very good 2 if he doesn't pan out.
Yeah. All right. So now we're going on to number 3.
Yeah.
All right. So number 3. Now, for anyone who's watching, my 3, 2, and 1 could all be flipped and interchanged. I'm just gonna say that now. So to me, my number 3 is Treylon Burks. Wide receiver, I believe, out of Arizona. Yeah. Arkansas. Yeah. Treylon Burks, to me, watching him, he's pretty tall from when I watched him. I believe he's like 6'4", 6'3". I was watching him in his last season in Arkansas, and they really used, like, he was like kind of like, I mean, obviously he was their wide receiver 1, but I saw him more as a gadget player too. And the only reason why I'm saying that, because he was actually a little bit involved in their rushing game too, which kind of made me think like this is like kind of like a raw, like Debo kind of. But obviously I'm not going to give him the comparison to Debo, but just watching him play in that offense and as in the Razorbacks really reminded me of Debo Samuel. I think this guy Treylon Burks is probably the most versatile wide receiver in this draft class, because I believe he could really, kind of fit in that San Francisco kind of offense. I have him either going to Green Bay or the Eagles. Now, Green Bay would probably be his best fit if Rodgers stays, but if not, Jordan Love and Treylon Burks could be the new Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, so my 3 is Treylon as well, actually similar to what you said. While not polished, and I don't think any part of his game, my exact description, while not polished, his upside is so high, similar to a Debo's type player. So almost exactly what you said.
Oh,
And he is similar to Debo. I don't care about comparing him to that type of guy because he's good, but he's like top 12, right? He's
yeah.
not
It's like, I'm afraid to compare him to these big time guys, but it's just like it's what I see, and
Well,
it's
it's
what.
like I'm not comparing him to Devontae Adams.
Oh, I don't know.
He's similar, and I think a fit that you didn't think about was Miami
Yeah.
because Miami is probably losing Devontae Parker this year. Will
Yeah.
Fuller's probably need a cut because he sucks,
Mhm.
and they just signed San Fran's OC.
Mhm.
Treylon Burks is big. He's 6'3", a very similar kind of build to like a Debo AJ guy where they're big, they're fast, they can break a lot of tackles.
Yeah.
If he's used right, he's going to be very good.
And
That's a
they
big
have,
thing
and he
with
has
Ronnie
that
Hall, guys.
speed. He has that speed on him
He has
too.
speed. He's 6'3", I think, 195. He's
Yeah.
a big dude.
Yeah.
He's good after the tackle. He can play anywhere. You can put him in slot, backfield, your X receiver.
He could be the best in the draft, but again, it's like you don't really know yet.
Yeah, so I think that a team like Miami, if they go and get a Treylon in like the early second, if he falls, you get Treylon in the early second, you lose Devontae. Now you have Tua, maybe a quarterback instead of Tua. Then you have
Jalen Waddle,
Treylon Burks, and whoever else.
Yeah.
So that's my point, is that's two very good receivers who were so dynamic that you can use them in different ways. Absolutely. I think Treylon Burks to the Dolphins makes so much sense for me.
Absolutely. Number 2 for me is Drake London. Is that your number 2 or no?
Nope.
Okay. Well, Drake London to me, I think honestly, I mean, watching him play, I get a lot of Kenny Galladay vibes. Now, obviously, he's 6'5", jump ball receiver. What do you mean? That doesn't give you any Kenny Galladay.
Are you trying to say Kenny is an insult or a compliment?
No, I mean as a compliment. I mean, or I could say Mike Evans too. I mean, you could go either way. My bad then. Mike Evans. I didn't want to go because I'm really like scared to say like, oh, this guy's like Mike Evans, and oh my god.
Giving NFL comps. We're not comparing the Devontae Adams and DeAndre Hopkins.
Okay. All right. So Drake London really reminds me of Mike Evans a lot. I mean, he's 6'5". He's a one-on-one guy. I mean, and when he was at USC, they really used him on that goal line. A lot of those goal line scenarios too. I know he was, I mean, in a game that we watched versus, I don't remember who, he was just absolutely torching him on the inside.
Notre Dame.
Yeah, it was on the inside. He was going deep. They were throwing it up to the end zone to him. He was, I mean, not in the Notre Dame game, but obviously in all the other games that I've seen of Drake London. Drake London is a phenomenal wide receiver. I watched his highlights, in love with him. I think his footwork is phenomenal. I think he could easily break off a corner, and he has the speed too. For a guy who's 6'5" and has that kind of speed, I mean, the way it's amazing. I think his best fit, honestly, would be in Philadelphia. That's where I think he'd go to. But I'm even worried as an NFC East fan to want him in the NFC East.
Yeah. So my 2's Garret Wilson. Garret Wilson's a really good player. I think he does everything pretty well. Unless you're going really critiquey and go like blocking, then maybe you could knock him. But he does everything really well. But he's less than my number 1. I'm just going to say my number 1. My number 1's Drake London on USC. Let me give my reasons real quick, and then you can go to your number 1, who's obviously Garret Wilson.
Yeah.
So I have him below. I have Drake London 1 because he has height, he has speed, and he's actually a really underrated route runner. So you can compare him to Mike Evans, but Mike Evans' whole thing is he really just goes deep, and he has the size. And you get one-on-ones, and it's hard to win a one-on-one against Mike Evans. Drake London, if you watch him, goes inside a lot. He has a quick burst. He can go, and it's really going to be hard to defend him because you don't see Mike Evans on drag routes. You see Mike Evans going deep. So imagine Mike Evans if he could go inside and outside. He's a very good player.
Yeah.
Again, he's a little underwhelming. This isn't a little nitpicky. He's kind of an underwhelming blocker for being 6'5". I know blocking's kind of people don't look at it, but for a 6'5" wide receiver, a run-heavy team that could take him may kind of be turned off by him because he's not a very good, for 6'5", he doesn't really block that well. Yeah. I know that's nitpicky, but I have Garret Wilson below Drake London because while Garrett may be a slightly better player, Drake London's like 4 inches taller and just as fast. So it's kind of a...
Yeah. So for me, obviously my number 1 is Garret Wilson. Garret Wilson, to me, he's 6 foot. He's a 6 foot wide receiver out of OSU. My thing with him is his route running is, I mean, I think it's probably if not one of the best in this draft class. his route running is phenomenal. The way that he's able to break off the corner and just has that separation and can just burn a secondary in a matter of 5 to 3 seconds. I think he's a phenomenal wide receiver. I think he'll be and the best thing is too, in 2020 and 2021 also, he did play in the slot a lot, and he also played on the outside. So he's a very manageable wide receiver. You can throw him into the slot and he can play on the inside, and he can go on the outside and hit a deep post and be wide open. Now, do I have a player comparison to him? A little bit. I will say his player comparison is a little too high. I'm just saying, when I say his comparison, it's who I think he can turn into. I think he can turn into the next Stephon Diggs, personally. Now, I don't know if it's that much of a reach, but I'm just saying that as his career progresses, I feel like I'll see another Stephon Diggs inside of Garret Wilson.
Running back, I'll go first, I'm guessing, on this one.
Just not going to say anything about what I said.
No.
Okay.
So running back, I'll go first. We'll do the opposite. So my number 5 is Kyren Williams. He is the best back out of the backfield in this draft, and it's not really close. He is a phenomenal receiving threat out of the backfield. Here's the issue. Actually, here's another pro. For being his size, which is short, he's a very good blocker in pass protection, which is rare to have a guy. I'm going to say he is 5'9", 109. He's 199 pounds, which is not bad. But 5'9" is short. He's 5'9", but he's a very good pass protection blocker. And he's very good out of the backfield.
Right.
He's not going to be a running back 1. But could he go to a team that throws a lot, like Buffalo, for example, who can play pass protection, can catch it in the backfield, and can hold his own when running the football? Yes. He's not a first-round pick. He might not even be a second-round pick. But he could be a very good running back 2. He's going to be a very good pass catching running back.
Absolutely. Yeah. So for my number 5, I have Mr. I can't even say his name. Damien Pierce out of Florida. The thing with Damien Pierce is there's a lot of things, but he's probably, when I was looking at a lot of these, I was kind of more looking at, receiving backs and all that. But this guy really, when I look at him, I really see a goal line threat. I can see a guy who has 574 yards, averages is 5.7 per carry, but he has 13 TDs, and he has a little bit of a receiving game too. In his final season, he had 216 yards and 3 TDs in his receiving game, averaging 11 and a half yards per reception. I think this guy is kind of reminds me of like a Mike Tolliver, you remember, from the Panthers. This is kind of what he reminds me of. This is a guy that can get on the goal line. This is a guy that can basically do everything for his size. Now, the problem is he's 5'10". That's pretty decent for a running back size, but it's a little too short. But I mean, this guy kind of really reminds me of Mike Tolliver a lot. And I think this guy can absolutely be a RB2, RB3, and especially a goal line threat or a third down kind of guy who you need to get that first down with. So yeah, Damien Pierce is my number 5.
Yeah, so my 4 is Zamiir White out of Georgia. I'm pulling up a stat. I have a stats pulled up, but he is the best power back in the draft.
Absolutely.
What do you say?
I said, yeah, no, I agree.
So I'll go off the stats. His stats aren't great. This year he had 160 attempts for 850 yards and 11 touchdowns. Only 9 receptions. He's not a big receiving guy, but he's the best power back in the draft. He's a bit slower. I'm just gonna be honest. He's not very fast, right? He's not slow, but for a running back, he's just not fast. He's very mid when it comes to his speed, but he is only 6 feet tall, so he's not a 6'5" bruising back. But he kind of reminds you a little bit of Chubb. He's not the fastest, but he's big. He's not easy to tackle. He's good contact balance. So that's why his comparison is kind of like the watered down Nick Chubb. I know it's a big comparison because Nick Chubb's like top 5.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll say Zamiir White out of Georgia at 4. He's a bit slower, but he's deceptively fast.
Yeah.
But we'll see. He again could be kind of that goal line guy. I don't think he'll be in the game on final drives. He's not a very good receiving guy. But could he be good between the tackles? Yes. I would like some teams to get Zamiir White, be a good player.
Yeah. So for my number 4, number 3, I actually switched it almost 2 hours ago because I was like, it was really hard to sit there and tell you who I really thought was better. So my number 4 is Isaiah Spiller out of Texas A&M. This guy, to me, 6'1", 215. he's an absolute monster. I mean, he has the elusiveness for to be amazing. I mean, to me, it was between him and Breece Hall. Breece Hall at Iowa State. Yeah, so it was between him and him for the 3-4 spot. The only problem with Spiller is, to me, his inconsistency. When I watch a lot of his games, he can do really good against mediocre, and I guess he can't really change up a defense. He can't.
Well, you're gonna hate my list. Okay. My 3 is Breece Hall.
So is mine.
Okay, cool. Breece Hall is very good after contact.
Mm-hmm.
He's actually a very good after contact, not easy to bring down at all. If you watch Breece Hall, he had 41 touchdowns in 2 years, which is insane.
Yeah.
But his speed is a little slower, but he does have a great 10-yard burst, which is helpful. I don't think he's like a breakaway boom guy, who's my number 2. We'll talk about him in a minute. Just a breakaway guy, but he has a very good 10-yard burst. I'm a fan of Breece Hall.
Yeah.
He's, again, not fast, but he's very good. He kind of reminds me a little bit of kind of like Javonte last year.
Yeah, that's exactly who I was thinking of too.
I know I was a big Javonte Williams fan. I don't like him as much as Javonte, but a lot of touchdowns, not the biggest, but a lot of touchdowns, a good 10-yard burst, which is good in the NFL, and not easy to bring down. So he's all pluses with him, and a pretty good receiving back as well.
6'1", 220. I mean, he's a monster.
Yeah, he's good.
Yeah. All right. My number 3, same thing, Breece Hall. Dylan basically said it. I mean, this guy is going to be hard to bring down in the league. Dylan kind of said Javonte Williams. This guy kind of also reminds me of a little bit. I would say, my God, I can't even think of the dude's name now. Dude, what is his name? I want to say Javonte too, but I mean, he reminds me so much of this other dude too, and I just can't think of. He's in the NFC. I just can't remember what his name was. Plays for the Saints. Kamara. I see a little Kamara in him, just a little bit. I mean, he has that burst where he could find those holes and he'll just run away. Now, and to me, I mean, Breece Hall and Alvin Kamara really just share a lot of similarities to me personally. I could see his player comparison being like an Alvin Kamara. You said Javonte Williams. I would maybe also throw in, and I'm not saying this because I'm a Washington fan, a lot of J.D. McKissick too, in a way, just finding those holes and whatnot. But yeah.
Yeah, so my 2's Kenneth Walker.
Who's your 1?
We'll talk about it. I think Kenneth Walker's he's good. I think he's a little overrated right now. People think he's like a generational running back.
Yeah.
He's good. So let's go through his pros. He has very good feet movement for a running back, which is important. Yeah. His change of direction is extremely good. His vision is extremely good. He is extremely explosive for the running backs this draft. He is a guy that if he gets an open hole, he is gone. Mm-hmm. So he's going to be hard to contain in the NFL because he's just that game breaker type running back.
Yeah.
Now, cons. 1 year of production is hard to kind of go off of. And I watched about 3 games of him, which you could watch more. I never really noticed him like really fighting for kind of extra yards or breaking tackles against college competition. I'm not sure how he'll compete against NFL competition, who doesn't miss as many tackles and doesn't get ran over. I didn't really see him breaking a ton of tackles, so this could be a concern a little bit. And he wasn't the biggest fighter. He fought for yards, but he wasn't like a big fighter for yards. So the only con for him is, I guess, a year of production and not sure how he's going to do against NFL level tacklers.
Yeah.
But he is so explosive that he has to be top 3.
Yeah. For me, what number are we on? 3? No, we're on 2, right?
You're 2.
Yeah. Okay. So for number 2 for me is Brian Robinson out of Alabama. I mean, this dude is a straight. I mean, this dude is probably the most physical runner. And unlike, what's his name? Walker, this guy could take multiple hits and he can go on multiple drives and take multiple carries. This guy, I mean, when I watched him in the Bama versus Georgia game, or not even Bama, Georgia, Bama, Cincinnati, this dude, Ryan Robinson, is getting carry after carry after carry, and he does not get tired. This dude can easily find holes, and he will rarely in the college level has ever gotten stopped by anybody, or there's been someone who's been able to contain him. Now, the only problem with him is that he has a little bit of a lack of speed. He doesn't have that burst. He more has that kind of power backness. He plays the game slow, but if he finds a large hole, he'll immediately try to burst to it. But to me, his speed is not all there, but he's a strong guy. He can easily break through, find these holes. But it's like I said, it's just going to be really tough for him to try to break through and kind of build up the speed to be able to break those holes on the pro level.
Yeah. So I actually have a tie at 1. I think both these guys are better than Kenneth Walker. I think Kenneth Walker is my 3rd running back in the class.
Mhm.
And it's kind of a pick your poison with these top 2. It's Brian Robinson and another guy I'll go to in a minute. So Brian Robinson, he's one of those guys that has a really high upside because of the emergence of guys like Henry and Mark Ingram and Jonathan Taylor, who got a ton of tread on their tires. Usually when you see people who got super tread on their tires, like Henry in college, like Taylor in Wisconsin, these guys are taking the 2nd round, and they could have upside. Now, they're not going to last as long, but if a team can get Brian Robinson in the 2nd round and feed him the ball, he'll be a very good running back. Now, to the opposite side of this, my other tie with 1 is Isaiah Spiller out of A&M. The reasons for this: his contact balance is probably the best in the draft. He has a very big nose for the end zone. He just knows how to get through the holes on end zone, which is hard to run on. And he's probably the 2nd best back out of the backfield compared to Kyren Williams, my 5th guy. Here's the issue that you can knock with Isaiah Spiller. He's not a great athlete. He's good, but his athleticism isn't what these other guys are.
Yeah.
So it's a little concerning. But I have him tied Isaiah Spiller and Brian Robinson.
See, with Spiller, it's like he can be good if he's more, I guess, has a better, if he just has a better, I guess, the saying having a better running back arsenal, does that make any sense? If he was just able to, I guess, be just more of a better of a vision person, if he could find those holes or not, I mean, he is
so good at finding where he needs to go and going in. Is he ever going to be top 5? No. But there's running backs in the league right now that are good because they find the holes and they get to them. One great example. James Robinson's that exactly, just a little, but they're kind of actually really simple. James Robinson and Isaiah Spiller are similar, other than Isaiah Spiller is going to go higher. They're both very good vision guys. They make it hard for you to just straight up one hand tackle them. They're not easy to bring down, and they're very good vision. James Robinson's not a breakaway guy. He just goes, and that's actually a good comparison for me. It's Isaiah Spiller and James Robinson.
Yeah. So for my number 1, Kenneth Walker out of Michigan State. Kind of what Dylan said, but I'm going to have to disagree. I do think that him not wanting to get hurt or tackled or whatnot, or is too afraid to get a hit, that'll immediately change once you get to the NFL. It's going to take literally Kenneth Walker one hit stick, like not a hit stick because I'm talking about Madden, but if all it takes is one big hit on Kenneth Walker and I believe that he will transition perfectly fine. Now, obviously being afraid to get hurt is something that he's going to have to learn through time, but
I don't think he's afraid to get hurt.
Okay, well, let me rephrase. He's afraid to get hit hard. And
yeah, he does seem like he doesn't really want to get popped.
He's very, okay.
Which no one wants to get hit.
Yeah, absolutely. He has the speed, he has the elusiveness, he has the power. I believe in his mind, he thinks he has all of those things and he's invincible. He will not get touched, he will not get hurt. But when there's someone that's going to come up and, either hit him or tackle him, he's afraid to hurt himself in that situation. And I'm not saying you have to take chances in the NFL, but he's going to have to take those chances if he's going to get hit.
Here's what separates good running backs in the NFL from good running backs in college. In the NFL, you're going to have hard-hitting safeties.
Yeah.
Okay, or linebackers. Who's the hardest hitting safety in the league right now, in your opinion? Let's just say Derwin.
Jesse Bates for me. Derwin.
I'm just gonna say Derwin. There's gonna be a game, whether it's his first game or 16th game. He's going to be going into this little hole in the O-line, right? This itty bitty hole. He's gonna have his shoulder pads ahead of him, and Derwin James is gonna fly into that hole and pop. Now, does he want to take that hit? No. But what separates good running backs is getting up from that hit and going back into that hole and back to that hole and back to that hole. And eventually you're going to break one free. Great example is Derrick Henry, right? He takes those hits, gets up, keeps on going, and eventually wear him down. Is he going to be able to take those hits consistently when it doesn't seem like he ever wanted to get hit in college? Now, he was very good at not getting hit, which is a good thing. But I'm curious to see what happens the first time he gets one-on-one, shoulder-to-shoulder popped. And we'll see what happens to that.
Yeah, and one thing too that I'm not really a fan of him too is his pass game too. I mean, obviously a lot of these guys in this draft class are not probably the pass games. Like Dylan probably mentioned the only guy that's really good in the pass game, and it was his number 5. Now, in my opinion, if he goes into an offense, what offense do you Dylan? What offense could you see Kenneth Walker being best in the NFL? To me, if we're talking if he gets into a pass game offense, let's say for instance, like the Falcons are not, I'm not saying the Falcons are in need of a running back, but Mike Davis would, I mean, I think that Kenneth Walker could outperform Mike Davis in a not in a year's tops, but I think through time, if say for instance he goes to the Falcons with a guy like Matt Ryan, who likes using in that Falcons offense, they like to use their running backs in that offense.
Let me see who he's mocked to real quick.
He's up who's gonna pick him up?
Yeah.
Are you looking at PFF?
I'm just looking to see who they have going. Go ahead, keep talking.
Okay. To me personally, is I think that's his biggest skill. His lack is just I would like to see more of a passing game out of him.
Interesting comparison.
Who is this comparison?
Tony Pollard.
I could, but no, because Tony Pollard's a phenomenal pass catcher.
A lot of people have him going to Houston.
Could see it.
A lot of Houston.
Okay. I mean, I could see that. I mean, it's more, I guess it'd be, but again, Davis Mills, who's not, I mean, who's getting experience, and that O-line's not that good. He's going to have to throw it to the running back on the checkdowns at some point. And that, if that's not what Kenneth Walker is, he's going to be a bust. So he needs to get into an offense to where he's not the main pass back guy, like how Tony Pollard is. And how, I don't know how the comparison could be Tony Pollard to Kenneth Walker when Kenneth Walker has 18 career passes caught by him, and Tony Pollard is known for his.
Well, I don't think Kenneth is bad at catching the pass. I think he wasn't used that way. I never felt like I watched him and he was just not open. I think their offense just wasn't a very pass to the running back heavy offense.
Yeah, sure.
So I don't think now in college, it's so rare to find a guy that just can't catch, because everyone in running back, a lot of running backs played wide receiver or vice versa. So it's so common now. I think every guy on this list can catch consistently open, but then there's those guys like Kyren Williams, even like Isaiah Spiller, who are kind of like Kamara coming out of college, where they can run routes like a wide receiver. Yeah, that's the difference. No one can't catch. It's just how much can you use them in like a wide receiver slot role, and how much can you use them just screen passes and swing passes.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that concludes the quarterback, wide receiver, and running backs. Next, we're going to be doing the kind of the more, I guess, talkable conversation is the defensive side, because the defense is probably going to be stacked.
Well, I guess we'll do a lot of it too, right?
Yeah, we'll do it. We'll do
tight ends, which no one cares about this year.
Yeah, this tight end draft is not that important. So personally, I don't think it's not like we won't.
We'll do it with O-line, but
yeah, we won't dive into tight ends, but it's not going to be. I'm not going to sit there and, put my heart.
Do a 30-minute episode on it.
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah,
we'll do a O-line with tackles, guards, a center, and tight
this is a decently stacked O-line class too. I mean, this
O-line's really good. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, and then next we're going to get onto the defensive draft, but we're going to have to separate everything. So we're probably going to do front seven line, meaning we're going to do corners and D tackles first, our top fives in those, and then we'll do linebackers and safeties and edges later on, or we'll figure something out. But thank you guys for watching today's episode. We did have a mock draft that was coming out, but unfortunately that 1 hour mock draft had to get deleted because it only had to get
deleted.
Yeah, because it only had 57% of it done and over 24 hours. So it was 1 hour long. So we'll do a mock draft eventually. It'll be a hell of a lot shorter, and it'll happen soon. So yes, thank you guys all for watching today's episode, and I'll see you guys later on. Thumbnail.